All these things just so happen to take place within a 24-hour period where this chick gets her job back, which everything's 24 hours. She quits her job within 24 hours of this thing happening. So then she gets her job back. She finds Caleb. Caleb gets into Starfleet. They take off. That ship is then taken over by this guy that just so happens to remember Caleb. He just so happens to be there after 20 years of not seeing this Caleb guy. So all of these people within 24 hours end up converging in the same place just because.
Pretty excited so far to see where they go.
I hate this f***ing show.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
Starfleet Academy. There's been a few episodes of this show where we talked about the trailers as they came out. We actually did a thing last week where you brought it up that sometimes trailers do an absolutely terrible job of conveying a story. We talked about Fallout and how the trailers were horrible. There was other stuff we talked about, and I can't remember.
D&D, Honor Among Thieves.
Oh, my God, the D&D movie, yeah. So then we watched the Starfleet Academy trailers, and it's this group of kids, and I'm like, what are kids doing on a starship? Why is the whole staff kids? That made no military sense whatsoever. And then we had Holly Hunter, who I love. I think she's world class. And she's laying in the captain's chair. I'm like, what the F is going on here? And then we had a female Jim Hadar, which there's no such thing. And then this group of kids. So then I watched the first episode of Starfleet Academy. And I got to tell you, I was cringing to even hit the play button. And
I was cringing after I hit the play button. I thought we were going to be in a point of agreement there for a minute.
Then the show started. And Holly Hunter's opening scene with Paul Giamatti and the mother and the child, absolute Trek. It was an absolute Trek scene. She established herself with gravitas almost immediately. And then we get to the point where she's left Starfleet, and then, of course, she's going to have to come back.
First of all, that child actor sucked in that scene.
He was bad.
It was very bad. Everything had the same cadence as he spoke, because he was clearly just being like, "Hey, say this," and then he would just say that.
Yeah.
And the camera would actively avoid his face, so it would like keep his face blurry or make him look down so that you couldn't tell that there was no emotion in it. The whole thing that drove me crazy about that scene is that they made it as though it was this great injustice that someone was being punished for being an accomplice to a murder. A murder. No, you don't get to be an accomplice to a murder and get away with it just because you were hungry and you got a kid with you. You murdered somebody. That was insane to me. That
she didn't do the murdering.
No, but she was an accomplice.
But she wasn't there by choice.
She had clearly been with this guy doing the pirating for an extended period of time.
Pirating, not murder.
Stealing, this, that, wrecking ships, that's all cool. And then somebody got murdered, but like, hey, you know what? You got a kid. You seem like a good gal. You should get off. No, that's dumb, okay? That's ridiculous. And then the kid leaves, right? The kid breaks out. Okay, that's on the kid. That's on the kid. It wasn't like the system failed the kid in that situation. They didn't get a chance to be good to the kid because the kid just booked it. And then they established later, because you mentioned that Holly Hunter's character left the academy. She left that day. That was the day she retired. She quit that day.
Yeah.
That's insane to me. Why would you quit? It wasn't like, oh, I didn't like the way they handled things afterward. I didn't da-da-da-da-da. She quit that day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Her big regret was that she actually punished someone that facilitated the murder of an officer.
She punished herself, crime notwithstanding. She punished herself for splitting a mom up from their child, and for her that was a linchpin thing. I'm not disputing the murder bit of it all. I'm just that's not why she did it. But anyway, Oded Fehr's character, Charles Vance, who's an admiral, meets him there, and they're trying to put the Federation back together. So Starfleet Academy is them reopening after the burn. She takes over as Chancellor of Starfleet, and then we meet Lura Thok, Laura Thok is the aforementioned Jem'Hadar female, and right off the bat explains that her father was Jem'Hadar and that her mother was Klingon.
So your Star Trek lore brain had underestimated the horniness of the
Yes.
various races. Yeah.
Or the ability for Klingons to get horizontal with Jem'Hadar. But anyway, okay, so she's not full-blood Jem'Hadar. Then we have Ake, and people are like, she's like walking around barefooted with foot jewelry on, and she's just laying in the chair reading a book. I love that about her. Every captain that has ever sat in the chair has had their own gimmick. She's no exception. When she needed to be upright and professional, she was. And when she didn't, she was kind of she was that hippie commune type captain, which
that was one thing that drove me nuts in this.
I loved it.
I'm sure they meant it to be endearing. But yeah, like her.
It was
thing,
endearing.
Anytime like she was on camera, it was like,
yeah,
there was that's all she did. It was always this insane, like I don't get it. No, it's too much. It was too much.
I also
too much.
like the fact that I was wrong about students staffing a starship. They're up there because that's where school is now. But the actual crew of that ship, the Athena, was all adults that had graduated from the academy and were working in Starfleet, and that was good to see. We've got to remember, this is not a Star Trek show where we're exploring space. We're in class. This is freaking Harry Potter. This is Hogwarts. So we have students, and Mason, you and I were talking before the show, and this group of kids is no different than any group of kids anybody's ever went to high school with. So we got Caleb Meir, the kid. Obviously, the adult actor was a way better actor than the kid version. But he's your tough case, your hard knot that you've got to. And Holly Hunter is, I think she's taken an easy approach to not put pressure on him, but eventually she's obviously going to have to, and you can see it coming. So he's the hard case. Pretty excited so far to see where they go. I love the new ship.
I am one episode in. I believe this will be the only episode I have, and I hate this fucking show. So there's quite a few things that I just don't get. So Caleb is the kid that escapes whenever Holly Hunter's like, hey, your mom was an accomplice to murder, so she's got to do some time. And then the kid just opens a portal and goes away by stealing her stuff. So then she immediately quits. She quits that day. They make a thing. She quits that day, and then he goes off. He's in his 20s now. He's either 20 or just past 20. So whenever we catch back up with him, it's this ship that is going to a prison planet, and he is riding along, and they do this whole thing where, there's this like robot that scans him, and you kind of get his little rap sheet of all the insane things that he has done from when he left to now, and the most recent one being 20 or something that it announced. And then he proceeds to take over that entire ship. I don't know if he explicitly killed anybody, but those dudes aren't walking and nobody's playing piano again after what he did to the crew of that ship. So we do that, but then, so we have Oded Fehr's character comes and he talks to Holly Hunter's character, and he basically says like, oh yeah, murder, what's that? And then, so he offers her a job, and then she takes the job. And then first order of business after accepting the job is to talk to Caleb. So she is offered the job. She is talking to Caleb, who is now captured. Within hours of taking this job, she's now talking to this Caleb guy. So she basically tells him, she's all this stuff, hey, I'm going to do Starfleet, we're doing all this stuff now. She takes some sort of responsibility for the path that he's gone on, even though he left because she punished a murderer. She says, well, hey, there's a program that we can do where you can basically work off this debt that you owe to society for low-level criminals. Bitch, this guy ain't low-level. We just heard his rap sheet, and we just saw him cripple 3 dudes. Like, this is not a low-level offender. It's not like he stole some bread from somewhere. So whatever, there's that. They explicitly say, though, that the program is for low-level offenders, and then they have this serial offender that they're going to put in the program. He clearly agrees, so they're now taking a shuttle. It's the next day. This is his first day of school now. She got offered the job. Within a couple of hours, she's talking to Caleb. Caleb then accepts it. Within a few more hours, they are on their way to Starfleet. They get there.
I think it's assumed that more time had passed between those
they
events.
explicitly say it. They explicitly say it because whenever she does her thing, whenever she sits down and she's talking to them, she says that she accepted this job less than 24 hours ago.
Okay, that part, yeah, I get that part.
It was the day before that this happened because she talked to Caleb after she got the job again because if she doesn't have the job, there's no reason to talk to Caleb. So This is happening within a few hours. So she talks to him. He's on the thing. They get there. And so this guy who has now known what time it was for the last 6 hours, they get there and he says, I'm not wearing a uniform. Bro, where was this energy 6 hours ago before you stepped on the plane, before you agreed to all this? They basically tell him whatever, you're doing it. And then they go a little further and they're like, we'll get you a compliant haircut. And he's like, I'm not cutting my hair. And it's like, dude, did none of this come up? Do you think that you were just going to be able to walk in and do whatever? Which also, their regulation haircuts seems to be a little sketchy whenever it comes to regulations because his brosif that he made there, this Caden guy, he gets to keep his long hair. This guy doesn't get to keep his long hair. As a long-haired person myself, I see that's as unfair. So there's that.
Culturally dependent.
Well, his culture is to be a piece of shit criminal that he's been for the last 20 years.
That was his disposition. That wasn't his culture.
This makes no sense. So they're on this.
It's again, Star Trek, but go ahead.
This is day one. All right. So they get there. They go on, they do this thing, they take off on this Starfleet. The ship is cool, but they're doing this whole thing. Right after, I guess, orientation, this guy hacks this comms unit, and he's looking for his mom, and he's trying to do all this stuff. And apparently, in doing so, this communication has been picked up by an enemy ship. And then that enemy ship takes over this ship, the Athena, and now it is stuck. They're trapped by this other ship, and that's the thing for this opening episode. Wouldn't you know it that it is the guy that was the murderer along with this guy's mom? So the first scene, Paul Giamatti, the murdering pirate, Caleb's mom, the accomplice of the murdering pirate, and Caleb, and then this chick from Starfleet. They have their thing. They all go their separate ways. Now, here we are. All these things just so happen to take place within a 24-hour period where this chick gets her job back, which everything's 24 hours. She quits her job within 24 hours of this thing happening. So then she gets her job back. She finds Caleb. Caleb gets into Starfleet. They take off. That ship is then taken over by this guy that just so happens to remember Caleb. He just so happens to be there after 20 years of not seeing this Caleb guy. So all of these people within 24 hours end up converging in the same place just because. I don't understand. That's the craziest thing. That's the most unbelievable aspect of all of this.
And yet easily explained.
Please explain.
Because of the burn. We can't even leave all those people are trapped within the same solar system because nobody can faster than light travel anymore.
You are aware that solar systems tend to be quite large.
Yeah.
Okay. So and so this one pirate just by sheer happenstance just happens to be close enough to take on this.
According to Oded Fair's character, that race had been basically doing raids all through the system anyway.
So this one guy though just happens to be on the one that just happens to hold Holly Hunter, who just happens to have gotten her job back less than 24 hours ago, that just happens to hold Caleb, that Holly Hunter just so happened to have given this offer to less than 24 hours ago. They all split on that one day. They all split, and within this 24-hour period, they just all happen to have fallen back in each other's laps.
Yeah.
Welcome
to Star Trek.
It's so ridiculous.
It's not the first time it's happened on Star Trek.
So yeah, I just don't get it, man. Then there's there's a lot of stuff where it's very tropey with things, but if a trope is done well, do a trope. Nothing wrong with it. Like you said, there's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's the two guys, like there's like the jock, and then, the new guy with an edge, and they're not going to get along. And, so yeah, there's always going to be these sort of very typical sort of high school level tropes, and that's fine.
And especially in Star Trek, because Star Trek is famous for creating what I call cutout characters. They're never crazily Picard, and you said yourself was your favorite captain. Picard was one of the most layered characters on any of the shows of all time.
It's a shame they didn't stick with that. It made no sense to me where it's like, it's so unbelievable that all this stuff just
really
happened to fall back into place.
It really sounds like you got so hung up on the murder that you never made it past that part.
No, it's just it's the first stupid thing that thing did where it's like, why is everybody like, oh, yeah, you remember that one time that we punished a murderer? Why did we do that? We shouldn't have done that. Gosh, I wish we hadn't done that. That was really mean of us to punish the person that murdered a Starfleet officer. Yeah, how dare we? Everybody's lives stopped that day and then resumed the day that all this happens after this 20-year gap. Okay? You were arrested. Boom, you're gone. You went here. You ran. You quit. And then everybody just comes back together within a 24-hour period 20 years later. Just cause. Just so happened. What a coinkydink. So, yeah, it was dumb. It was bad. It's a horrific storytelling. Like, it wouldn't have been nearly as awful if it was over a much longer period of time. And like you said, like, if they would have not put in that line in her speech where she's like, hey, less than 24 hours ago, I would have told you I would never be back here, blah, 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 blah. If they would have not put that in, I would have assumed months had passed or something like that. But no, but they had Caleb walk in the same dirty clothes that she found him in, 6 hours earlier. Yeah. And it's just, yeah, it made no sense. It made no sense.
I mean, I hope you continue to watch the show and see how it develops because I might end up flipping, but right now I love it. I think it's absolutely what Gene Roddenberry intended for his show to be. And got to remember, again, like I said at the beginning of mine, this is a school show. I mean, this is a coming-of-age story for all of these kids. And then it's Holly Hunter trying to play high school counselor with Laura Thok playing disciplinary principal. So,
well, I know that Holly Hunter's 67 years old, and she's going to blow out a knee or a hip sitting in that way in the chair all that time.
Well, she's obviously in really good shape, though, so my hat's off to her for that. But, I think what I'm looking forward to is when she has to get hard and be tough with these kids.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I'm looking forward to that because she does that well in other roles that she's played. So, that part of it I'm looking forward to. And for me, this actually started off better than Discovery did, although Discovery redeemed itself. I just like it when I get proved wrong on an initial feeling of, like I said, when we first watched that trailer, I was like, oh,
I hated it more than I thought I would.
What are we doing? But then once I got to watch it, stuff was explained, and I was pleasantly okay with it. It was very Trekky. Trek is always famous for having to set their plots the way they set them, and in this case, it was the way it was set. So
maybe some realistic timelines would be in order, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Well, Jay will see what happens. I will not. I will listen to what Jay says happens and take his approval of this first episode as how highly I can regard that opinion. Anyway,
that's right. You didn't watch the second episode, so there's that.
No, nor do I recommend anybody do so.
Wow.
I must leave you adieu.